So what is the modern art? Well, I can just kind of give a brief outline. It's really talking about the subject of art. It's the ideas of traditionally we were talking about religious and history as well as mythology and heroes. On the modern art, we will talk about personal experience, symbolism, or some kind of conceptual thinking. And the second is about the technical change, the medium change. We're not adopting the same way as used to be. We were talking about a different way of making art. Used to be adapting the natural forms very important. But the modern art is first to break the forms. That's in the end that because breaking the forms is change in a way that making the lines between life and art become very blurry. And so that's kind of basic thing that we should understand to look at some art movement that before we move to the modern art and this art movements we talk about, they really have some influence on the later on the end of 19th century, all those young artists. So let's look at first, okay? First I like to do is look at the classicisms. And the classicism, why classicism? It's actually classicism started in the mid of 18th century. It was after Rococo style, because traditional way of thinking enlightenment and archaeological discovery at the Pompeii and Herculaneum renewed the interest of Asian art and Renaissance classicism. So, as well as the French Academy, those artists they study in Rome, and they are kind of in favor of the classical subjects and classic of adapting art. And we also can say the American Revolution kind of inspired this artist a little bit. For example, the artist Rodin, he made a very classical sculpture of George Washington. And that's a very beautiful piece, almost as good as those 16th century Italian sculptures. Okay? So this is what is the background for classicism. So first artist I want to introduce is Jacques-Louis David. And his first paintings is this, The Death of Socrates, and was done in 1787. The reason I like to show this painting with you because I had seen that many, many times while I was working at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And it was also a favorite painting for young students. And this is a painting that talks about the moment that Socrates was ready to die and he was holding a cup of the poisonous hemlock and he was ready to drink. But in the meantime, he was scolding his students for not able to control their grief. So that's the story. But the story we all know it's because Socrates, his crime was say at that time was because he polluted the young mind, and therefore he was condemned to death. The simple was like that. But in this painting, what he was trying to say, or David was trying to imply the story is one should really die for one's belief. Okay, so, but if we talk about classics of style of painting, we can tell the surface is very smooth, and all the forms are very clearly defined, and the colors are kind of very contained and very low key. And that is basically just the main characteristic of classicism. And there are some way of doing explain to you. I want just to show you that an interesting way of doing is like using the four guideline that we talk about is a dispersive description and analyzing and interpretation and judgment. So if we use that, we can tell what we see and what is the story behind the whole thing, the painting, and what it is the artist trying to tell. Do you like it or what you don't like it? What's the reason you like it, you don't? So if using myself as example, I would say that this, just I said before, that this painting was adapting Socrates, the moment that before he died, and he was trying to give the message, or tell his student that one should really die for one's beliefs, the right thing to do. Okay. Now, analyzing the things is the things I really like is, as I said, the classes and the forms and the colors are really very clear and subtle. And so it just kind of gives a nice and smooth feeling about it. Okay. And my interpretation about the story is, as I say, if you look at that and with more respect, Socrates, because he died for what he believes. And judgment, what do I like or not? In ways, I kind of personally, I think I go for what he believes, and I also like the style a little bit. But that's just what I personally feeling. Nevertheless, we should also look like that this form is very idealized and the composition is very stable. That's probably are the reason I really like much. So if I want to say it again, that's is what the beauty of the neoclassicism. Okay? Well, he also did a couple other paintings that we want to show you here. Okay? This is the one that showing that Napoleon was crossing the Alps, and you can tell the color is much more brighter, but nevertheless, it is still the lines, the form, the figures is very clear and controlled and contained, and also kind of portraying heroes. And on the other hand, you also can tell there's a little trace of romanticism. And that's what we're going to talk about. What is romanticism? That's going to be next. I also like to show you another nice work that belongs to classicism. It's the one by Ingres. And again, I will say that this painting I have seen many, many times, and adapting the Princess de Bourgogne. And you can tell Ingres was famous for his draughtsmanship. He insists that when you do a painting, you should not leave any trace of brush work. And from this painting, you can tell the dressing, the model. It's really perfectly adapting. So it's a beautiful work, and you also can tell from the model's expression. Tells that she was not happy, but during now it was said that she died.